Hi, everyone. This is Stephanie Mann at the Safe Kids Now show. And thank you for joining us. And I'm so excited to welcome a guest. His name is Matthew Pallotta, and he has a professional background in biotechnology and in chemical food processing. He loves travel, health, meditation, self-improvement, and gardening. He has a deep respect for the healing powers of psychedelics and all kinds of plants. Okay. His life's mission is to help people deeply connect with themselves and honor themselves as human beings. So happy to have you join us, Matthew. And I understand that today you are, as a traveler, in Guatemala. So, how is Guatemala?
It's beautiful here. I just got in yesterday evening, and I'm in a town called Antigua right now.
Oh,
And I'm
yes.
at this like kind of communal living space. I guess it's kind of in between a hostel and a hotel. And it's really interesting to see how people can really live harmoniously together and like co-working. And there's an on-site restaurant. Everyone's just kind of chilling outside right now. There's lots of people around. So it's beautiful.
Well, I know that must be kind of a little bit of a change for you because you and I both are from the San Francisco Bay Area. And
Right.
as I recall, and I've been there quite often for many years, and there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of busyness going on. The atmosphere is totally different. But how do you see the difference between modern life today in the Bay Area versus tranquility in Guatemala?
Well, I think it's about a balance because, the Bay Area is incredible. I loved it there for so long. I
Yeah.
spent the first 6 years of my career there working at different tech companies. And, it really has like a place in my heart. I was just back there recently and like, I really want to love it. There's a big part of me that wants to be there, but it just doesn't resonate right now. Like it's not a match. And that's not to say one day it won't be, but, yeah, I think it's a balance. I think that places like that, cities like big metropolises that are focused on, in that case, technology, like they provide incredible value for humanity. But there is a cost, and that's like you said, like a very stressful lifestyle. A lot of people are angry. We talked about this before,
Yeah.
angry because they're so depleted energetically. And a big part of what makes us feel centered and powerful is our energy. If we don't have any energy inside
Absolutely.
of our body, if we feel depleted because we're stressed, because we've given all of our life force away to a company or to the development of a product, that product might be incredible, but at what cost? And that's usually at the giving away of self. So we need to balance that out because there is a external like creation process that's happening. But if it is at the expense of us being totally energetically drained, then it's a problem. And you get people that lash out. There's anger, there's tension, and there's I feel that general like
Yeah.
fear state that kind of permeates the Bay Area right now, and it's definitely sad to me. I was gone for about 2 weeks camping around California, and I came back and I was just like, no, this energy doesn't work right now. So it's about balance.
Agreed. I don't think most people think in terms of energy. They just know they don't feel up. They don't feel
Mhm.
as happy as they did before. And do you think COVID has a lot to do with that, or is it our times? What's going on?
It's like I was saying, is when you give away yourself, when you give away yourself to something that makes you feel no longer whole or makes you feel drained, whether that be the government, it could be a company, a lifestyle, an ideology, a partner. If you're giving yourself away, eventually you get that you get defensive, you lash out, you
Mm.
say, no, this is enough. It's a defense mechanism. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, like it's around our energy totally. And I think like pertaining to COVID, a lot of people have, and I'm not saying that it's a very touchy subject, and there's a lot of like it's very divisive. But if you just acquiesce, just whatever the mainstream media tells me, whatever the government tells me, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Well, if you give away your power like that, you don't question it, you don't use common sense, you don't ask what you're exposing yourself to, covering your face, putting things into your body. If you don't do that, then and it doesn't work out for you, or it doesn't make you feel you know safe in the way that you thought it would, or the way it was sold to you as, then eventually, even on a subconscious level, you start, pushing back. So I think that's what's happening. It took maybe 2 years, but yeah, people are starting to realize, hey, like I keep doing what I'm told, and it's not working out for me.
Yeah, really. Well, now, how did you get started in this field of not just energy, but hallucinate? What's the word I want? Hallucinate drugs.
Yes. So I wouldn't. So I don't have very much experience with these. So I don't want to talk like I'm an expert by any means.
Okay.
I don't. I don't. I've had a very profound like process where I connected to myself and connected to a lot of suppressed emotions that were inside of me, and that made me more whole. It made me feel more empowered in my experience. It made me set up boundaries with people and take back responsibility for my life. But I am by no means like an expert with these substances. I know people that I could definitely refer you to, but uh, I think mainly what allowed me to access, whether it be plant medicines or just other healing modalities, it's intention. And it's, I'm in my mind right now. I'm in the driver's seat, and I am deciding what I call into my life, where I put up boundaries and say, no, I don't want that. What I decide to do with my time, like it's all, as we start to take back our power and take back our energy, like I was saying, we're the captain. And so when we set the intention, like, hey, I want to, like right now I'm in Guatemala, I want to go check out some retreat centers. Like I'm doing that on my own accord, and like whatever happens, who knows how things come about. And that was the case with the plant medicines. It's like I set this intention to change my relationship to myself, and that's what appeared in my experience. Is in my case, it was ayahuasca, which was a very deeply healing but extremely challenging experience. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I would just, but if someone feels called to do it, then they should go do it. But it's, yeah, these plants are very powerful, and they can really allow us to connect to ourselves in a deep way. And so that was a manifestation of my intention to become a better human being.
Well, I think that should be the goal for all of us. So, how can we all get to that place where we all feel good about ourselves, and how do we change from feeling unempowered to be empowered?
Stop externalizing it. I
Okay.
mean, if I had to sum it up, it would be begin looking inside of yourself. The entire experience you're having right now is inside of you. Even I am inside of you. Your perception of me. I hold a space within your consciousness at this moment because you're putting awareness on me.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like look inside. I mean, my life really started changing the most is when I just regularly closed my eyes, sat with myself, and began meditating. It's because you're shining your light inward, you're shining your awareness inward, and that's how you begin to know yourself more deeply. And when you understand something, when you know yourself, then you can love yourself. But you can't fully love something that you don't understand. So I think we have a lot of people on the planet right now that are running around thinking that they're going to gain identity through money, think they're going to gain identity through titles in their job, and whatever else is external relationships, friends, popularity. But ultimately, we get all of our identity from the inside. We give it to ourselves by knowing ourselves, and you can really only truly love something that you understand.
You know, I see a lot of young people today on our streets that have turned violent, or
Mm.
they're stealing, or, you know, in some of our big cities, violence has increased tremendously. And, you know, in the work I've been doing as a crime and violence prevention consultant, I see all the time that they lack self awareness. And they really haven't done any looking within themselves to say, what am I doing? Why am I making these choices? Do you have any feeling about what's going on with some of these young people?
Yeah. Um, well, self-awareness is first off very hard. I actually struggle with that myself, even though I have practices to go inside. Seeing how you're perceived by others is actually really difficult to do, and I think it's something I'm just starting to access and become aware of. Like seeing how I'm perceived by community, by a friend, by a partner. That's like the next step. It's very difficult, and it's definitely takes practice. But in terms of why people turn to certain patterns, is it does tie back to energy and things that have happened in our past and our society. It's not a conducive container or environment to heal. So if we have been, exposed to any harm or had anything done to us or didn't grow up in um, the most nurturing home as we developed, then we can suppress those emotions and not clear them from our body
Mm.
and not really like sit with them and feel them and then ultimately release them. And what this does is, because they're held inside of us, it results in us acting them out in adulthood with other people or whatever the environment that we're in. So a lot of people carry trauma or suppressed emotions, and rather than facing them, because they can't really face them because the environment's not conducive to facing them, they just suppress them. So if
Yeah.
something like, let me give you an example. If someone had something happen to them as a child and they never feel safe enough to really process what happened to them, then it stays inside of them. That those emotions get
Very,
locked inside of us. And what happens after that is they soothe it, they shut it down even more with substances or addictive patterns. It can be any type of addiction. You don't need a substance to become addicted to something.
that's true. That's very true.
So I think it's a culture around a culture that's not conducive to dealing with emotion, a culture that lacks emotional intelligence.
I would second that motion. You know, I worked with the homeless for 4.5 years. And as a result of one of the homeless men saying to me one day, I need help. Can you help me? And I thought he wanted money. That wasn't what he wanted at all.
Mhm.
He want, we wanted to know how to stay out of San Quentin prison because he had been there, but he was on a methadone treatment program and it was running out. And he said, I don't know what to change. Well, I didn't know either. But as a result, we started support groups. And I think that's what you're saying here. People, it took us about two, three, maybe 3 or 4 different meetings before people could even hear each other. There
Yep.
was so much anger. There was,
Mhm.
they couldn't hear. And once we got their attention, they began to pay attention and listen, and they found out they were not alone. How important do you think it is for these groups to have, or why don't we have support groups for homeless people or people that are stressed out and just talk about some of this information? Why don't we do that?
I think it has to do with our society really valuing the mind above all else and externalizing our power. So what can we create? What type of home do we have? What type of car we have? All of these things externally. So we're putting the energy outward, and then we're also just prioritizing the mind, mental achievement, career, things like this. And emotions are really like swept under the rug. I mean, I can even think the standard American family doesn't like to talk about emotions. Like if anyone's feeling something or sad or angry or like, it's in a lot of cases quickly swept under the rug.
Yeah,
And you're totally right about, people, once they finally got together, they just had so much anger that they couldn't even, like, they had to purge that before they could actually be open
that's
to
right.
receiving anything from someone else. So I think it has to do with lack of a value around emotions in our society, because we don't think that they have any importance, when, I mean, the whole basis of the human experience is in a lot of ways emotional. It's how we relate to each other. And so
Absolutely.
yeah, I think and I want to touch on one thing around the support groups. It's very interesting that you can have big companies where people are like in congregating together to achieve some ends, create products, whatever, in the case of the Bay Area, like we were talking about, but they can feel extremely emotionally isolated. So
Oh, yeah.
you can have companies with hundreds of thousands of people in the case of the big tech companies. And it's like, but everyone, or not, I'm not going to generalize, but a lot of people feel alone.
Absolutely.
And it's not alone physically because you got all these people around you. It's alone emotionally. They feel like they're not accepted. That emotionally they can't be expressive, and they're shut down by the culture or their parents or their past or themselves in a lot of cases. Ultimately, it's themselves shutting themselves down, so they don't feel comfortable to let themselves be free. But they're like the police officer inside their own mind. But anyway, I think it's a lack of value around emotions within our culture, because we got to meet the earnings results for the next quarter. It's like we don't that stuff doesn't matter right now.
Yes, it's so critical that we begin to start a whole new dialogue, not with just our family, but our neighbors.
Mm,
Children need community. They absolutely need community, not only
totally.
to make them healthy, but to make them feel safe. And that is kind of not where we are today. As you said, we look at the intellectual, but it's the emotional part that we're kind of missing. So how do we get all that back?
Well, I've looked into this quite a bit, and most people will tell you within spiritual communities, within the sites that I visited, is emotions don't exist in your mind. Your mind or your brain, it's like a computer that is used to strategically relate to the environment. The emotions are felt in the body. So, like, when you really can clear the blockages, clear the trauma, clear whatever has been housed in most of our shut down bodies for a long time, then we can start to feel and become more sensitive to everything that we've been, shut off from within ourselves. And so my biggest recommendation to everyone out there that is wanting to build deeper relationships within their community, within their family, friendships, partners, whatever, it's to go into the energy of the body, go into the emotions of the body, develop practices. For me, breath work has been incredible, where I'm basically using the breath to force my awareness into the body. And yeah, I mean, that's ultimately is we need to wake up people's bodies again, because we're so, like, everyone's so stuck in the mind that
Yeah,
which has produced incredible things, incredible
right.
technologies that we're using right now. Like, I'm neutral about technology. It's not a bad thing at all.
No, no.
However, it's about balance. So how do we live in the mind while also being in the heart? I think that's the phase that humanity is going into. But yeah, it's about energizing the body. And I'm not talking about having like a strong body. You can be very shut down in your body. You can go to the gym all the time and still not be energized in the body. That you need to
Right.
clear a lot that's been housed there.
It's about the power of the human spirit uh,
Totally.
to find who you really are, and then can really change your life. What is your particular recommendation for anybody that's been through trauma? I just saw on television where Naomi Judge committed suicide. She had
Mm.
mental health problems and issues for many years. And a lot of people have a lot of angst in their bodies. And she was just about to receive an award for all of the work of years of working with her daughters and so forth. And that wasn't as important to her as escaping who she was. I mean, meditation would be a good way to help with that. But what would you suggest on that, Matthew?
Well, I would say that the process of reconnecting to ourselves is very gradual. And so it's not, I mean, like since I had a profound, you could call it an awakening or very profound experience with plant medicine that I was talking about. Since I had that experience, it's been a gradual process of reconnecting to who I am, and I'm still obviously on that journey. It's a lifelong journey, but I think it's all about finding, of course, setting the intention to do so. That's intention's everything, but also finding a community and an environment where we can start to access these things. So the reason I say it's gradual is because the Bay Area is not conducive to doing this.
No.
Good luck healing in the Bay Area. Like you can do it in some capacity, but I mean, I think it made the process that I was in from the plant medicines a lot harder because it didn't feel safe to access emotions. It didn't feel safe to get into my body. It didn't feel safe to start looking at these traumas that were coming up in my psyche we all have varying degrees of trauma from our past. We all have it in some capacity because of the culture that we're brought up in, because it's so disconnected from nature. But I would say it's a gradual process. It's about setting an intention to do so, really wanting it for yourself, because no one can do this except you.
Absolutely.
And like finding a way to get yourself into a community or an environment where this is supported, because the reason that people call it quits from my perspective is they don't feel safe enough to be themselves, to start accessing those parts of themselves, and they feel alone. And that's one of the most literally soul crushing things.
Yes.
To the human spirit is to feel isolated, because we are communal by nature. We're supposed to touch each other. We're not supposed to we're supposed to shake hands. We're supposed to hug. We're supposed to connect on multiple different levels, express, facial expression.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the development of a child is facial expression. So anyway, I can go on about this, but that would be my recommendation. Find a supportive environment.
Well, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion. So we'll take about 30 seconds or so, and we will be back and talk to we'll talk to you, Matthew, in just a few minutes. Okay, thank you.
Throw and Tuck. It's handmade by myself, and you only can get it here, and it's patent, and it's only here at Rococo Design. It's like a regular pillow, or you can take the blanket out like so, fluff up the pillow, open up your blanket, wrap it around yourself, and then you can lay on your sofa and relax with your pillow, throw and tuck. When you're done with it, just flip it over. When you don't want the blanket anymore, you just fold it over twice. Fold it over twice again. Fold it over. And tuck it in the back. And there you go. You're back to the pillow, throw, and tuck. Rococo Design.
Welcome back to the Safe Kids Now show. And I'm Stephanie Mann, and I'm here with Matthew Pilata. And Matthew and I have been discussing the spiritual aspect of health and wellness. And now he's involved also in food. And I'd like to ask him, how does food affect us, Matthew? Because I'm sure it has a big effect.
Well, it's just been something I've been looking at for a long time. I think there's multiple different facets to this and dimensions to it, but we've got the body, we've got the mind and the spirit, and sometimes what is good for the body doesn't resonate well with the spirit. So in my case, I've experimented with vegetarianism, veganism, and then tried meat again, and my body tends to like meat, and it increases different hormones and makes me feel stronger in myself. But then I notice it does things to my spirits, and this is not like a generalization, because we're all in different bodies, and our bodies come from different environments, and our bodies come from different parts of the world. So someone that might resonate really well, whose body matches up well with a vegan diet, it might not be the best for someone that is maybe from the North Pole or Iceland or Scandinavia, because that just wasn't available to, or plants throughout the winter, throughout the year, were not available to them. So we have to be conscious of the fact that we have an ancestry that adapted in a specific environment for a long time, and our bodies are going to be more adapted to the plants and food products, animals in some cases, that were in that area. So there's the body component, but I do believe that, just from my own experience and trying out different diets for a long time and really becoming sensitive to how I feel, that if we consume animals that are produced in these high throughput factory farms, and the energy that they're feeling in their bodies and the lifestyle that they live, I do think that we in some way incorporate that into ourselves. It's all interconnected. It's all a unified field. And so, like, when we consume that which was tortured or treated in a really harmful way, especially for an extended period of time, then we start to feel the effects of that. It shows up in our experience, and I think it's kind of karmic. I struggle with the idea of karma, but it could be that.
So you're saying that if the animals were mistreated, or that when you consume that animal, you think that has some effect on the human body?
I've noticed it within myself. I've noticed, and like from an emotional standpoint, and I can only speak from my own experience, but when I tend to follow more of a plant-based diet, I feel happier, I feel lighter. But I do notice that my body doesn't like that as much in some cases, because I have lower testosterone. It's harder for me to get like the full portion of calories that I need, macronutrients. I'm sure that I could do it if I really put the intention in. But I've noticed that when I follow that type of a diet, I feel better spiritually. I feel in better spirits. And then when I associate with animal products that were produced in a particular way, then I feel that energy. It feels a little bit lower to me. It doesn't. My spirits are lower. And that's coming from someone that has really focused on being as sensitive as possible. Doesn't do like pharmaceuticals or drugs regularly. Just really tries to tune into himself. So that's what I've felt. And I'm not saying it's the case with everyone. And like I said, everyone's body is different.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that the pharmaceutical companies are making a great deal of money, not just during the COVID time, but even before that, passing out pills to children in schools. I remember hearing about them lining up and taking all kinds of pills when they really needed to meditate. They needed to get outside and do exercise and a lot of other activities, rather than, and who knows what's going on with these kids, but taking a basket full of pills every week seems unbelievable to me, and that parents should be much more aware of what they're putting in their children's bodies. What do you think?
Yeah, it's acculturated. I mean, people think it's normal to take a high concentration of some chemical that doesn't really exist in nature, or at least it doesn't exist in that concentration very regularly. And I think that is because of our mind-centric culture, because of our shutdown as far as spirituality and emotions. We are unconsciously trying to force people into this like one-dimensional experience of problem solving. It's like, be a really good achiever and problem solver, and if you're not that, and if you show any signs of challenging that narrative, then we're going to dose you with cocktails so that we can lock you into that little loop, so that we can extract value from you, and we can, feed you back these little accolades of achievement and whatever else we get back from the affirmations that our society feeds to us when we do well. But I think that's what it is. It's a this is a chemical experience in a lot of ways. People drink caffeine in the morning because it changes consciousness. It changes the way that you perceive your environment and interact with your environment. And likewise with these substances that are from the pharmaceutical companies, they drastically change your natural state, and they lock you into a I would say in a lot of cases a more contracted state. But it can make you a great problem solver for the system.
Yeah, I'll say. And also at nighttime, drinking, how many cocktails do people drink to be sociable or feeling more gregarious or whatever we do?
Or get themselves ready for bed.
Yeah, whatever they do. We have a few comments here from, let's see, Rebecca says, glad to join you and very glad, wait, I better put on my glasses. And very glad, let's see, to join you. So she's happy to be here, and we're happy to have her. And let's see, Cecily says she's here and she's glad we're discussing the impact of big pharma on kids, because that drives me crazy. I can't imagine just thinking about shooting children up when we don't have absolute proof that there's no harm being done. And I think there is harm being done. That's my personal opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think modern medicine's incredible. It's achieved so much, and I think we should keep a lot of what I think it just needs an upgrade. We need to look at nature and say, hey, there's some really powerful plants out here that can allow us to become better human beings as individuals and as a collective. But I think I have the problem with the culture of dependency, where it's like, oh, if you have a one-off situation where something, your system gets out of whack, or your brain gets out of whack, and you need something to rebalance it. Great, like that's, or you have a, in the case of not drugs, but like in the case of like surgical operations, like I think it's incredible what we can do in modern medicine. But if we're telling someone that they have something fundamentally wrong with them, where they're going to be dependent on something or a multitude of substances for an extended period of time, I think there's an ulterior motive there, especially if it's done like at the scale that it's done at. I'm certain there's people out there that have imbalances that need to be corrected, and maybe that needs to be done regularly, but not at this scale. It just doesn't make sense.
No, agreed. So how are we going to unify humanity? That was one of the things you had in your title here. How do we do that?
It starts internally. We're having this experience, but we all need to take responsibility for the fact that we can really only work on ourselves. And as we work on ourselves, and as we connect to ourselves, and as we feel the emotions that we've stowed away for so long, then we can relate to others better. So like when, for example, if I'm able to really feel myself, then I can tune to you better, and I can be more compassionate with you. But if I'm up in my head all the time, and I'm like shut off, and I'm disassociated, and I'm like thinking about work, then like how can I be present for my friends or my community or family or whatever? So we have to go inside of ourselves, and as we build a deeper knowing of ourselves and understanding of ourselves, we start loving ourselves more. and then that radiates out into our environment. It radiates out into our relationship with the earth, which we are, because when we connect to ourselves, we're connecting to the planet because we are the planet. And likewise with others, when we realize, oh, we're not exactly as separate as we thought. Like fundamentally, you and I, we're kind of after the same things. To feel enriched in the human experience. We want the same things. You know, we want community. We want to make sure that we feel safe, and we want to have some type of a spiritual mission or fulfillment in this life. And like, I mean, I can come up with some more things, but they're common to us. They're common to both of us, and they're common to pretty much everyone out there.
Agreed.
So understanding ourselves better is the path, and going inside. That's the first step.
That's the first step. What's the second step?
I think as we really start to access ourselves and clear ourselves out, then we are able to build relationships that are not based in codependency or taking and giving, transactional relationships. They're built more in I want to be in a community because that's what humans do. And it's more of a, I think when we heal ourselves, we attract a community or a group of people that really is in resonance with what we're here to do and what we're going to create together. So building community, I believe, is next, because community is a big part of the human experience.
I couldn't agree with you more. Well, here we've got a question from Cecily, and she says, how do parents protect their children from being prescribed unknown drugs by the schools? Oh, dear.
Well, and try to bring as much awareness to as possible. So if it's unknown, try to know it. So try to understand what it is that they're asking to put in your child's body. And if you can, if there's information on the internet, research it, just understand it more. And also try to understand like how, if anything like this occurs in nature, and why does your child, in the case of what the school is saying, why does the child have such an imbalance or need to be corrected? Because that's what they're saying. It's like your child needs to be corrected. So why does your child need to be corrected? Is there any grounds for it? Or is your child just a very complex being that wants to express itself in a multitude of ways? There's nothing wrong with that. No. But maybe in terms of the problem solving, sit down, shut up state of consciousness that we value within school systems, that might be being expressive might be a problem. So it's understanding what the basis for this correction, this chemical correction in your child is, and then if it needs to happen, then really try to understand what this compound is that they're putting in their system, and does it occur in nature? Yes,
and ask lots of questions. I would suggest that people go to school boards and listen, and if they hear something that is puzzling to them, get a clarification, ask about what kind of drugs they might be giving, or why they have decided to do what they're doing. We are hearing now about, what do they call it? Art, they're teaching children about sex in early grades. I think every parent should be questioning what the heck is going on and why are you doing this? Because this is a very, I think we're in a very interesting time, a changing time, and it's going to be up to the people in your community to get involved and decide what they want in their own community. You don't let teachers or government officials or anybody to take away your power. And I think that's what you're saying, Matthew, is take back your power, be assertive, trust your gut, and speak up. What would you say to that?
Yeah, and just find out what your values are and then put up boundaries to protect them. And Absolutely. Find a community that resonates with those values that you have for yourself. And then, you guys as a group, then you defend those together. And then, of course, that trickles down to the children, because the adults are there to protect the children. And outsourcing it too much to the government. I mean, I do get the idea of a civilization, and it allows us to have an economy that creates some incredible things, and allows for the cost of goods to be much lower than they would be if we were each producing them, on our own. But we have to balance it out again. It's like we can be a part of this like massive civilization, and we can also live in these little micro communities where we have a like whole relationship with ourselves, where we don't outsource too much of our power and decision making to the, in this case, the government. So yeah, I would say it's really about the people taking responsibility for their lives. And because when like we were talking about in the case of what's happened recently, it's like if you just go along with things because you don't have the energy or the time or the I don't know, the brain power to do it, then eventually you're going to get angry and you're going to lash out, and the pendulum might even swing back the other way. And I would say just be inside it. The way this would be described within spirituality is being in your center, being inside of yourself.
Absolutely. Any final words for us, Matthew?
I think that, my wish for the future and for human beings is that we realize that we're on this, and this doesn't mean we have to associate with everyone. We can put up boundaries and say, okay, I want to be around this person, I don't want to be around this type of person. But we need to, I know we need to realize that we're on this ball together. We're on this rock shooting through space, and we're kind of these little avatars that pop out of the soil and then go back into it. And I think we really need to honor each other and realize that we're one humanity serving itself.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, because it's been an important conversation, because all of us need to look at ourselves, get stronger within, and take our power back. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I really appreciate you having me.
Okay. All right. Well, let me say that to next week, next Wednesday, we're going to have another wonderful guest, and his name is Jim Boyd. And Jim will tell us what he's doing in Canada to make the children in Canada safe, and he's trying to bring that message to the United States. So I'm looking forward to talking to Jim, and hope you will join us too. So thank you, and peace and love.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AAU Media, and visit our website, www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio.